The recreation deck of Station Kepler 442 hummed, with the usual cacophony of a dozen different species trying to coexist. Zdravik and his gang of Thronen juveniles lounged near the gravball court, their iridescent scales catching the artificial light as they searched for entertainment. That's when they spotted him. A human teenager, no more than 16 standard years, walking alone with a data slate tucked under his arm. His name was Marcus Chen, exchange student from Earth, and he'd been on the station for barely 3 cycles. "Look at that," Zdravik hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air. "The little pink skin walks like he owns the deck." His companions chittered in agreement. Humans were still a novelty on the galactic stage. Only 70 years since first contact, and their kind still hadn't earned proper respect among the elder species. They were soft, weak, barely capable of surviving their own gravity well before the Galactic Council had found them. "Let's teach him some station manners," suggested Kreth, the largest of the group. They approached with the swagger of predators who'd never known real danger. The human looked up, his brown eyes widening slightly as the Thronen surrounded him. "You're in our area, human," Zdravik said, poking Marcus's chest with a clawed finger. "Toll is due." Marcus raised his hands defensively. "I don't want trouble. I'm just heading to the education wing." "Trouble?" Zdravik laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. "We're just playing." What happened next would be discussed in hushed tones across 100 worlds for years to come. Kreth, emboldened by the human's obvious fear, drew back his massive arm and struck Marcus across the face. It was meant as a joke, a light tap by Thronen standards. But human bone structure was different, more fragile. Blood erupted from Marcus's nose, spattering across his shirt and dripping onto the deck plates. The moment the crimson droplets hit the metal floor, everything changed. A sound, barely audible at first, began to emanate from Marcus's body. No, not from his body, from within his blood itself. The spilled drops on the floor began to glow with a fierce blue light, and the air around them started to shimmer like heat rising from desert sand. Zdravik stumbled backward. "What the—" The glowing intensified. Threads of light began to weave themselves out of the blood, forming intricate patterns in the air, patterns that any species who'd survived to the space age would recognize. Quantum encryption keys, military-grade containment protocols, and beneath it all, a signal broadcasting on every emergency frequency simultaneously. Marcus, blood still streaming from his nose, looked down at his hands in genuine shock. "Oh no," he whispered. "Oh no, no, no!" The station's alert system exploded to life. Klaxons blared. Every screen on the deck flashed the same message in a dozen languages. "Protected asset compromised. Initiating Protocol Guardian." Zdravik's blood ran cold, metaphorically speaking, as his species was cold-blooded anyway. Protected asset? The humans had only been in the galactic community for 7 decades. They didn't have protected assets. That designation was reserved for species carrying classified technology, strategic resources, or in his train of thought derailed as the first security drone materialized through a nearby bulkhead, phasing through solid matter as if it weren't there, then another, and another. Within seconds, 50 autonomous war machines surrounded them, weapons charged and targeting systems locked onto the Thronen juveniles. But it wasn't the drones that made Zdravik's scales stand on end. It was what came through the main entrance. 3 figures in armor that seemed to bend light around itself, making them appear as walking voids in reality. Their weapons were holstered, but the threat they represented was palpable. On their shoulders, they bore an insignia Zdravik had only seen in classified intelligence briefings his father had shown him. 3 interlocking rings over a blue sphere. The Human Strategic Defense Initiative, the legendary Black Ops division that had allegedly prevented 2 sector wars and dismantled a slave-trading empire before anyone even knew it existed. The ghost stories elder species told their young to keep them in line. And they were here. On Station Kepler 442 for this one teenager. The lead figure stepped forward, their helmet retracting to reveal a woman with gray-streaked hair and eyes like chips of ice. She looked at Marcus first, her expression softening marginally. "Are you injured beyond the nasal trauma, Cipher 7? Marcus wiped his nose, the bleeding already stopping. "No, ma'am. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to activate the beacon." "Not your fault, son." She turned to Zdravik and his gang, and her expression could have frozen stars. But theirs. Zdravik wanted to speak, to explain it was just a joke, just juvenile stupidity. but his vocal cords seemed paralyzed. The woman continued, her voice carrying across the now silent recreation deck where dozens of species watched in horror. Do you know what you've done? This child you assaulted carries genetic sequences that represent the combined work of Earth's finest xenobiologists. His blood contains nano-defensive structures that could revolutionize medicine for 1,000 species. His neural patterns are mapped to quantum processors that coordinate Earth's deep space defense network. She crouched down to Zravik's level, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than her earlier volume. He's not just a student. He's a walking, talking repository of humanity's most carefully guarded secrets, and you made him bleed where our enemies have sensors. The implications crashed over Zravik like a tidal wave. Every species with intelligence apparatus on this station, which was every species, would have detected that signal. They would know a human classified asset was here, vulnerable, exposed. The station will be evacuated within the hour, the woman continued, standing. This location is now compromised. 30,000 beings will have their lives disrupted because you wanted to play a joke. She nodded to her team, who gently guided Marcus away. The teenager looked back at Zravik with something like pity in his eyes before disappearing into the corridor. The security drones remained along with the woman. She pulled up a holographic display, tapping through screens with practiced efficiency. You and your friends will be detained pending investigation. Your families will be contacted, and when they learn that their children's stupidity forced humanity to reveal one of its guardian protocols. She smiled without warmth. Well, diplomatic immunity only stretches so far. As station security arrived to take them away, Zravik finally understood the human saying he'd heard Marcus mutter earlier, before everything went wrong. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He'd thought humans were weak, soft, easy targets for juvenile entertainment. He'd forgotten the most important lesson of galactic history. The species that seem weakest often survive by being the most dangerous. And humanity, despite their short time among the stars, had learned that lesson well.